And we now come to the motion on energy. I call Minister Robert Largan to move the motion.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I beg to move that the House approves the Energy Act 2023 Consequential Amendments Regulations 2024, which was laid on the 13th of May of this year. This instrument is technical in nature. It uses the power in Section 330 of the Energy Act 2023 to make various amendments as a consequence of the passing of that Act. The majority of these amendments relate to the Independent System Operator and Planner, or ISOP, with most others relating to the governance of the gas and electricity codes, and also other minor amendments to the provisions relating to the hydrogen levy, competition in onshore electricity projects, and heat networks. The ISOP will be an expert and impartial body with responsibilities across both the electricity and gas systems to provide progress towards net zero while maintaining energy security and minimising costs for consumers. With roles across the energy system, the ISOP will help plan and deliver the integrated system needed to ensure our energy security, net zero and affordability goals. The ISOP will be independent not only of other commercial energy interests, but also from the operational control of government. This means it will be in a position to use its expertise to advise government and Ofgem on the critical decisions ahead. Two types of amendments are needed to give the ISOP a stable legislative footing. The first is to reflect its public nature, a shift from the current ownership by National Grid, for example, adding the ISOP to the list of organisations to which Freedom of Information and Public Records Acts apply. The second type of amendment is to reflect the fact that unlike the current Electricity Systems Operator, or ESO, which holds a transmission licence, the ISOP will hold an Electricity System Operator licence and a Gas System Planner licence. This will require updates in energy legislation to ensure reference is made to the new ISOP licences, which will ensure continuity. For example, updating the Energy Act 2013 so that the ISOP can continue the ESO's current work as the contract for difference counterparty. It's worth noting that none of these changes will come into effect until the ISOP is created, and current legislative reference will remain whilst the ESO continue to operate the electricity system. There will also be changes made in regulation to the code governance reform. The Competition and Markets Authority has previously highlighted concerns regarding certain aspects of the code governance. Under the new system, the existing code administrators and industry planners will be replaced by code managers who will be selected and licensed by Ofgem. These code managers will be directly accountable to Ofgem, and their responsibilities will include making recommendations and, in some cases, decisions on modifications to the codes. This statutory instrument enacts the necessary consequential changes across legislation to reflect the new governance framework and licensing regime. Lastly, an amendment to the Gas Northern Ireland Order 1996 is made to ensure that the right primary legislation is in place should government decide to introduce the hydrogen gas shipper levy in Northern Ireland. And with that, Madam Deputy Speaker, I commend these regulations to the House.
The question is, as on the order paper, Shadow Minister Jeff Smith.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I want to start my brief remarks with a few words about the Honourable Member for Southampton Test, who would ordinarily be speaking to this motion and who is standing down at this election. Now, I appreciate that brief remarks and few words are not phrases you would normally associate with the member for Southampton Test, but there is a good reason for that. He is one of those parliamentarians who has a really deep knowledge of his subject. It's completely across his brief and has campaigned on these issues for many, many years in this place and has played a vital role in informing Labour policy for the future. During my brief tenure in the Energy and Net Zero team, whenever I met with stakeholders, it was very clear how widely he is respected throughout the whole everybody who works in energy and net zero, as well as across this House. So we want to wish him all the very best for the future. Parliament will miss his expertise and his commitment to tackling climate change. Moving to the motion, Madam Deputy Speaker, we don't intend to object to this instrument. The measures are generally consequential to elements of the Energy Act 2023, which we supported. The creation of a new body, the Independent System Operator and Planner, now the National Energy System Operator, is essential to managing and planning the expansion and operation of our energy system as we transition to net zero. Indeed, Labour called for the creation of this body as a system architect. We've been encouraged by the early steps that the current ESO has made in preparing for its new role. We therefore agree that establishing its legislative basis fully is an urgent priority, and I'm glad we've managed to address this in the wash-up period. We also have no objections to the new governance framework for gas and electricity codes. We support establishing the Ofgem licensed code manager role as a sensible improvement to the current system, given the importance of gas and electricity codes to the smooth technical operation of our energy system. Other miscellaneous amendments in this SI include amendments made as a result of the Energy Act provision to regulate heat networks and create heat network zones. Heat network regulation has for too long been a blind spot, and some consumers have had to pay significantly higher bills as a result. So I'd emphasise again how important these new regulations are, and hope that we can get on and make sure that they're enforced as soon as possible in the next Parliament, whatever composition it might have. And finally, Madam Deputy Speaker, yes, you are my favourite Deputy Speaker. And I'd just like to close by thanking you, Madam Deputy Speaker, for your service to this House and to the people of Doncaster, and to the great support that you've given to me in my 9 years here and to many colleagues on the Labour benches. And we all wish you all the very best for the future. Thank you.
SNP spokesperson, Kirsty Blackman.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and please accept my apologies for not putting in my name to speak on this. You will understand that it's been somewhat of a hectic couple of days, so I hope that bobbing would be sufficient. In terms of this, we're obviously not going to oppose this. Also, we are supportive of the fact that there needs to be reform when it comes to energy. I mean, the reality is that looking at the inflation figures, they're so heavily influenced by the cost of energy, and reform has been overdue for quite a long time when it comes to markets, particularly, as was mentioned there, around heat networks. I think the increase in the amount of heat networks that there are in my own constituency, Aberdeen Community Heat and Power, is incredible and is a very well embedded heat network that supplies a significant number of council properties in the city. In fact, I would go as far to say as it is one of the leading heat networks because of the sheer number of properties that it is able to supply, and gives cheaper energy to those properties, which is incredibly important. We have made the cases. The case has been made by significant numbers of campaigners around things like standing charges when it comes to particularly electricity and gas, and the concerns about the price cap and the energy price cap, and the fact that that does not reduce this. We are aware that when it comes to October, we're likely to see an increase again in the energy price cap, and those people who have managed to find things a little bit easier over the course of this summer may find things even more difficult when it comes into this winter because of the potential that there is for increases. We will continue to make the case, as the Minister would assume that I will, that Scotland has got the power when it comes to energy, but we do not have the powers to make the changes that we would like to see in order that there is a fairer deal across these islands when it comes to paying for electricity and gas, when it comes to the prices that people are paying in their own homes when those bills come through the door. We're seeing higher levels of standing charges, for example, in Scotland, and higher levels of charges for those organisations that are looking to connect to the grid, and we frankly do not think that this is fair and would like to see those changes made. But we are pleased to see that the government is moving towards reforming, and that this SI has been included in the wash-up process. It is good to see the government prioritising that, so I do appreciate that the Minister has pushed for this and is taking the time to move it today.
Minister?
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And just to briefly sum up, and first of all to associate myself with the remarks of the honourable gentleman opposite about yourself, and for the member for Southampton Test. As a whip standing in as a minister, I don't think I'll be revealing any secrets to say that the member for Southampton Test has sometimes been a source of frustration for the Treasury bench. However, we could never doubt his level of detailed knowledge and his commitment to public service, and we wish him the very best in the future. I also thank the honourable gentleman and the honourable lady for their indicating the support of the opposition benches for these regulations. The honourable gentleman won't realise this, but many years ago he was actually my local councillor when I lived in South Manchester. I always enjoyed getting his leaflets through my door. And as I've said, whilst broadly administrative in nature, these changes will be vital for the creation of the ISOP for energy code reform and the continued development of the energy sector towards net zero. Finally, if Madam Deputy Speaker will allow me, this may well be my final few words in this House. This is, as they say, it. Serving in this place is an honour and a privilege that few experience. I have done my best. It is all that anybody can do. And with that, Madam Deputy Speaker, I beg to move.
The question is, as on the order paper, as many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. The contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.